Good morning, everybody. It's Hump Day. It's been a couple of weeks since I've been here on Hump Day. I've had to have some dental work done. Folks, take care of your teeth. This is a public service announcement. You only get one set, but thankfully we live in an era where they have different ways of saving our teeth. I remember my grandparents always used to have their false teeth. But as I'm British as well, I have an exceptionally bad issue with my teeth based on the wonderful National Health Service that I grew up with. So any of my British friends can testify to that. If you couldn't afford private dental care, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I'm talking about it anyway. Anyway, so I'm back. It's Hump Day. And I wanted to discuss, there's two things I want to discuss. Coming into the Jewish high holidays, this idea, what is it? I always get this question, especially from people who aren't raised Jewish or non-Jews, or Jews as well. What does it mean to be the Jewish people? The chosen people. Why are you the chosen people? Does that mean that we're special? Does that mean we're not special? And in light of that as well, I kind of want to not necessarily draw a comparison, but I also want to discuss a little bit the weather. I know the weather, it's like, what are you going to talk about? Oh, it's with the weather. You walk along the street and you talk about the weather. So we'll talk a little bit about some of these heat waves that are happening. But again, I want to start with discussing what it means to be the chosen people. And I discovered a very interesting, I'm going to put my reading glasses on, and I just dropped them. I'm going to read for you something from Mark Twain, the great American author. Mark Twain, who wrote this in Harper's Magazine in 1899, and it's called Concerning the Jews, right? So this is, Mark Twain, interesting character, a very funny man, but he wrote this. I think it's a very beautiful piece. So I'm going to read to you. It's reading time with the Rabbinic Cynic. If the statistics are right, the Jews constitute but 1% of the human race. It suggests a nebulous, dim puff of stardust lost in the blaze of the Milky Way. Properly, the Jew ought hardly to be heard of, but he is heard of, has always been heard of. He or she, I'm adding that for the 21st century, is as prominent on the planet as any other people, and his commercial importance is extravagantly out of proportion to the smallness of his bulk. His contributions to the world's list of great names in literature, science, art, music, Bob Dylan, finance, medicine, and abstruse learning are also way out of proportion to the weakness of his numbers. He has made a marvelous fight in the world in all the ages, and has done it with his hands tied behind him. He could be vain of himself and be excused for it. The Egyptian, the Babylonian, the Persian rose, filled the planet with sound and splendor, and faded to dream stuff and passed away. The Greek and the Roman followed, and a vast noise, and they are gone. Other peoples have sprung up and held their torch high for a time, but it burned out. And they sit in twilight now or have vanished. The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakening of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert and aggressive mind. All things are mortal, but the Jew, all other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality? And so that was a very powerful piece there. I'm not sure I agree with everything that he has written, that he writes there, but he essentially, there's an eternity to the Jewish people, to my people, and it's our hands were tied behind our back. That's the Jewish history, the anti-Semitism that we've experienced. Why do we still endure? And so this is a thought-provoking question, right? How have we able to survive all of these empires? And many of these empires actually tried to kill us, right? They rose to great heights. They conquered the world. They took us into slavery. The whole reason why I am this color, I'm Caucasian. I look Caucasian because my ancestors were kicked out of. This is history. This is not the Bible, right? It's written in Josephus, Roman history. We were kicked out in the of our homeland, of the Jewish homeland, and the Romans took us into exile to Rome and to all of the other parts of the Roman Empire. And we've been the wandering Jew for the last 2,000 years. So what is the secret to our endurance? And so one of those secrets, and what Mark Twain is touching on, is that the importance that the Jewish society, that the Jewish culture places on education. When you're left with nothing else, when you're not allowed to own property, which was the case for many years in many different countries, you turn to a couple of things, right? You turn to economics, right? That's where the whole, people think that the word "Jew me down" is like funny. Right, but it's not funny. It's anti-Semitic. Whenever I hear it, I cringe. It's like if you can think of racial slurs for your own people, Jew me down for me is would be similar to a racial slur for other races. So when I hear it, and even if they think it's in good nature, it's not. So that's another public service announcement for you. So if you ever think of using that word, Jew me down, think about the idea we weren't allowed to own property, we weren't allowed to do a lot of things. The only thing that they wanted to put us in was into the banking system because of the Christian view of usury in the world, right? Usury in terms of money lending. Money lending was prohibited. So Jews were the only ones that were allowed to do money lending, which is ironic because in the Torah, we're forbidden to lend money lending money for interest is forbidden in Judaism as well. So it's kind of ironic that we were forced into that position. But there were other positions we were forced in. So what we had to focus on was education. And so it's not that we're chosen by God, we're special or we're superior. In fact, probably quite the opposite. We're not superior or different than any other person. Any other race, any other human beings. This idea of racial, that there's one race is above another race, or that is the antithesis of Judaism. The idea with the chosen people is something beyond that. It's something that goes into our intellectual, philosophical understanding of the world, the way we have attempted to understand the purpose, the meaning, the why behind human existence. And a lot of that is you look at the series of laws in the Torah, especially the ones that relate to human beings. Laws for laws to create a just society, right? The analogy of a people that get given a blank slate after leaving Egypt and find themselves in a desert, right? I'm going to get to the weather in the desert. That's my connection. But you sit in the desert, you get this blank slate. A whole generation that knew slavery died off were given this blank slate, and as we moved in, we were about to move into the land of Israel, our ancestral homeland, going back to Abraham. Again, might be metaphor, might be, we do know that the Israelites, our genetics come from there. If you ever go to GEDmatch, it's an awesome genetic site, you could actually see the history in our chromosomes, in Jewish chromosomes. But we were given a blueprint for a just society, moving away from pagan sacrifices, human sacrifices, right? So you see the sacrifices in the Bible. This was a way to transform and to transition human beings from a more brutal, not respecting the animal species, not respecting the planet, to a more just society, to a society where there is equality, where every human being is seen in the divine image. And so throughout the generations, after we lost that, and after we lost our homelands and we were forced into exile, so we took on the idea of the chosen people being a light to the nations, and in a sense is to bring that type of social justice, the idea that there is justice for humanity. And we brought it into influence Christianity, and Christianity took it to its own level, to Islam, and those are the Abrahamic religions. And then we see comparisons in the Eastern religions. And I'm not saying that Judaism influenced the Eastern religions, but there are parallels between the Abrahamic religions and all the other religions. So for the Jewish people, and I think that nowadays, I think we can all look at ourselves as chosen people to a certain extent, that you can choose yourself to be part of a chosen people. Right? In Judaism, we do not proselytize. I don't want to convert anyone to Judaism. That is not my intent. Unless you come to me, I'll tell you to go away 3 times. And if you really insist, right, there's this, if you ever seen the movie Defiance with Daniel Craig, they always talk about, he's arguing with his old teacher. He says, they said, "Oh, we are the chosen people. You are Moses to lead us away from the Nazis." And Daniel Craig's character, the Bilski from the real Bilski brothers, he goes, "Well, we call ourselves the chosen people. Choose another people. Yeah, please choose another people. Right? Everyone's trying to kill us. They were trying to kill us. Maybe they still are at certain places. But choose another people, and that's the essence. The essence is that we're not looking to be the chosen people. What we're doing is we're just living. We're just trying to survive like everybody else. And if we've made these contributions, it's because of the adversity that we have experienced. And you can see that in other cultures, right? The cultures that experience adversity and that take themselves out of that adversity and raise themselves to great heights, that raise themselves into great fields in medicine. You see this with a lot of the immigrant populations that are allowed to, right? We have systemic racism, which is often used to keep immigrant populations from achieving that. But I believe in the initiatives that are put forward to really help with minorities and to develop diverse groups, give them opportunities so that they can also raise themselves above. And sometimes it's difficult because especially when there is racism, there is social injustice. They're not given those opportunities, and to create an equal society, which is what that is the blueprint that is in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses, is to create that perfect society, to create a society where everybody gets those equal opportunities. And as we go through, I'm going to be going through the Torah portion. I do it every week. There's going to be an in-personal plug for an in-person Zoom and in-person through Desert Outreach Synagogue in the Coachella Valley, and there'll also be online opportunities on Shabbat morning. You can PM me or send it to, I'm going to put you here my email address if you want to get a Zoom link to come to my Torah study, which will be starting from the 8th in person. There'll be some online, and so everyone can Zoom in and get the link. But the point is, we go through this idea of what it means to be the chosen people. What are the ethics that are universal? They're not just about faith or believing in God, but they're also just about faith and how to be a good human being, how to create justice in the world. And so that brings me to I'm going to stand on my soapbox today a little bit. I'm driving through the Coachella Valley. So if you don't live in the Coachella Valley, right, Palm Springs area, you know that we're used to it being 117 degrees. Very common in the summer. Gets really, really hot as hell. Us locals, we don't go anywhere. We stay here for the summer. That's how you can tell that we're hardy. We're really hardy, right? We get skin, and we can start looking like Keith Richards, which is kind of cool in a way, but it's not cool. But driving through the desert, if you notice, or you notice in your own gardens, you live here, but the humidity has been so bad. We're not used to 45% humidity or even higher in certain cases. You are seeing cacti just falling over, right? It's too hot for the fucking cacti, right? It's too hot for a cactus. Trees that lived here for years, they're just dying everywhere. I ask my God, why is this happening? And it's the heat, it's the humidity. They're not used to it, right? So you would think, the desert's used to the heat. No, we're not. We're not used to this kind of heat, and it's damaging the fragile ecosystem here. And I find it really hard to say that this is just a cyclical, has nothing to do with human behavior. I mean, to say that climate change, right, is nothing to do with human behavior, I think is ignoring the science. And you can give me some research. I'm sure people can come to me and say, well, how we deal with it, right, that's a separate question, right? That's a controversial question. Different. I think most people agree that has to be dealt with, right? Whether or not electric cars is the answer, or they cause more problems. Whether we have to, I know Joe Wallace made a great point. We have to fix our power grid, right? Why is our power grid? Our power grid should not be overloading. There are many things that we can do to fix the power grid in California. Everyone got that alert? We got that alert on your phone that said, stop using your air conditioning, right? This is the hottest time of the year, but you got to stop using your air conditioning, right? But turn things off, right? I'm always told to. I should listen to myself. I'm always told by my wife, turn things off, because I forget, ADHD, forget. You know what? I'm not going to make any excuses. I should be turning things off. We should be turning things off. But at the same time, we need a more efficient power grid. Come on, folks. California Edison, if you're listening, right? There are many things that you can do to improve the power grid instead of just raising our rates all the time, right? Many things that we can do. We do have, and again, I am not here to take a stance on whether, creating a worse economy, creating financial hardships for working people through the actions to combat climate change, or the fact, well, since China isn't doing it, then fuck it. China's not doing it. Let's not do it ourselves, right? I'm gonna throw my hands up in the air because they're not doing it, so I'm not gonna do it anyway. My little brother, he's not allowed. He gets to do it. Why can't I? Isn't that kind of like the same thing? Or my big brother's doing it. He gets to do that. Why can't I? Right? But you should lead by example. That's the idea of becoming a chosen person, being the chosen people, chosen country, right? United States is like the United States was founded on this idea of almost being a light unto the nations, right? The American excellence, right? So the United States has that opportunity. Other countries are already doing it, right? Israel, as an example, is already figuring out ways to deal with food insecurity and water insecurity. Right, the droughts that are occurring, Israel uses desalinization, and that's something that we could use to on a mass scale here. And that's the idea of justice, right? Climate justice. It's not just social justice. Climate justice is about the planet's, the ecosystem. When you're seeing cacti in the Coachella Valley just rotting from the inside because of the humidity, because they're dry. I mean, the science behind it, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone's a scientist, is that, yes, they're used to the heat, but what happens is they dry out, and so used to drying out, so they're not used to being hot and humid, so they get root rot and they die. That's why you see they get all mushy and stuff. They're not designed for that, and that's happening everywhere. The fires that we're seeing, the terrible fires in Sacramento, the air quality, people getting asthma, people getting cancer from it. Fires are something that historically could have been the wildfires in California could have been dealt with. It's not that publicized, but indigenous Americans had a tradition. It's called ritual burnings. So especially the different tribes that lived around the Sacramento area, the northern, middle and northern California area, they would periodically have these ritual burnings where they would burn the brush, right? All the crap that you see in forests and wooded lands. Why? Because it helped with their agriculture. Not only did it helped with agriculture, it created a type of when they did the ritual burnings, it would seep into the earth, make the earth richer, but also at the same time it would protect against wildfires, right? So I mean, wildfires is not a new thing, but the proliferation and how bad these wildfires are getting is the result of human action or inaction, and part of that is because when the British and then the Americans first came across the ritual burnings of the indigenous Americans, they banned it. They made it illegal. And it got to a point where it was illegal. So this became built into the society that we've grown up in over the last 250 odd plus years, and And it's got to that point where now people, the California government, various counties are looking to the indigenous Americans and are asking them, hey, how do you do cultural burnings? They have advisory committees now with different fire departments so that they can do these burnings in such a way that it can prevent maybe the wildfires getting worse. So there are many things that we can do, and if we don't, and that's climate justice. That's not just climate justice because it's social justice at the same time. It's recognizing, and that is one of the things I was talking about before. Is education is so important. What real aspects of being a chosen person, which is for all of us, is to learn from the cultures around us. I'm trying to learn Spanish. And I mostly I watch Spanish TV, and I'm trying to hear it, feel it, and embarrass myself and try to talk to people in Spanish. But that's learning from a culture that is a mass culture of where I live, So in the same way, we learn from other cultures how we can make this a better world, right? So by isolating ourselves, we lose that opportunity, and I think that's the secret to the Jewish people, is that we've adapted to the cultures that we've lived in, whether they have suppressed us or they have allowed us to flourish. In the United States, we have been allowed to flourish. Einstein ran away from the Nazis to come and developed the science that was the foundation for modern science, but he found a beautiful nurturing ground in the United States, and there are other countries where British Jewish intellectuals have found that. But it's not. I'm not just talking about Jewish. This goes to all of the groups as well. So with that, I think that's my teaching for this month of Elul, as we come into the Jewish high holidays, the new year for humanity, the new year of creation, the new year for the planet, right? And I'm not saying the world is 5,700, however many years it is. What I'm saying is that we have to recognize every new Jewish year that we got to do better, that we've got to do better. We've got to look at each one of ourselves as being the chosen people. You are all the chosen people. All of you are. Whether you're Jewish, whether Christian, Muslim, Hindu, whatever your religion, you are a chosen people. And it's what makes you unique, and then what you can bring to the world that can save the world's problems, that can stop the help with the wildfires, that can maybe, what can we do about this humidity? I don't know. But science, some smart people might figure it out. We're going to do it now. Tomorrow's not going to help. Have to do it today. And so with that, I'm going to do my little wake-up call. Uru yishenim etudemchem. Wake up, you sleepers, from your slumber, and listen to the still, silent voice of the shofar, of the ram's horn. Takia! Today, we will heal the world, live long and prosper, and everyone have a beautiful Wednesday.